Hello, and I'm here to talk about excuses, why we like making excuses and why we should stop doing so, as we will live a better life without them. So, why do we like excuses? Well, we like excuses because we like reasons. We like reasons for things to happen, for A to lead to B and for B to lead to C. If we don't know where A came from or where C is going to, or what C is going to cause, we do not like that. And that's why in scary movies, the monsters often part of the unknown. They don't. You maybe know that they eat people. That's a useful thing to make a monster scary. But you don't know how the monster eats people. You only know that the people really don't like being eaten. They sometimes scream or something. But you don't know when it jumps out at you. Is during the night, during the day. And by the way, the reason why we're more afraid of night is because there's more unknown. You don't know what's behind that building because there's no light shining there, right? That's why we don't like night, is it creates more unknowns. So wanting to have reasons for everything, whenever we encounter a problem, we often like to make excuses for that, because the reasons that are there, that we want to find, usually lead to yourself being at fault, and we really do not like ourselves being at fault at all. And so we like making excuses in order to satisfy our sort of needs or our lust or our thirst for reasons, but at the same time not wanting the reasons that are the actual the truthful reasons. And so we make excuses. Now, not only is this bad because we don't actually get to solve the actual problem, but also because other people, whenever they encounter a person who constantly makes excuses, we already know, because we ourselves make excuses, that that person is unsure of themselves, they don't take responsibility for their actions, and that excuse making will extend not only to smaller things like being late for a train one time or something like that, or not buying the correct peanut butter or something because it was out of stock or something like that, but it will spill over into actual problems that they will continue to make excuses for and not change because, well, they feel like it's not their fault because they made an excuse. Now, I mean, we can see the fact that people really like reasons with even like the legal system. There is a difference between murder or first-degree murder and voluntary manslaughter. That's a separate sort of crime provision in some states in the United States. And what it is, it's basically the exact same thing as murder, except there is more of a reason, more of a sort of reason for the murder or for the killing of the person. And it's basically, it literally says, like, in which the offender, this is the voluntary, I'm pretty sure, voluntary manslaughter, in which the offender acted with the heat of passion, right? So when you have more of a reason, like a heat of passion, like, I don't know, catching a man catches his wife sleeping with another man, committing adultery, that sort of stuff. The heat of passion causes you to murder them. Well, that's all right. Well, it's not that it's all right. You still get charged with the crime, but the crime is lessened a bit because there's more of a reason. Now, there is actually a book that I really like. It's called Around the World in 80 Days, and in it there is a character called Phileas Fogg. Now, what I really like about him is that he does not make excuses. He's very good in the fact that he's faces problems head on, and he doesn't shift blame onto someone else, onto something else. He understands the problem, and this allows him to think clearly when he comes up to problems. This is seen, for example, when his friends have a bet with him to go around the world in 80 days. And he is very determined. He doesn't make excuses. Oh, maybe I'll be late there. Maybe I'll be late there. Well, let's have some sort of special provisions, or let's do that. He's dead on. He's very determined, and it also makes him a likable character. This is the other thing that I was talking about, with the other people perceiving you as a more of a likable character, instead of saying things like, but Mr. Fogg, this is Phileas Fogg who's going around the world in 80 days. This period of 80 days is calculated only as the minimum time. And then he says, a minimum put to good use is enough for anything. But in order not to exceed it, you'd have to change with mathematical precision from railway to steamship and from steamship to railway. I will do it with mathematical precision. You must be joking. A true Englishman never jokes about something as serious as a bet, replied Phileas Fogg. Now, I think that is very funny indeed, and very interesting, and something that you should more or less follow with your desires of being determined. Now, let's run through some examples, because I think they are a great way of getting across what I want you to understand. Now, For example, you have come to the station. The train is set to depart at, 10 a.m. or something, and you have come at 10 a.m. The problem is the train left at 9:59 a.m. Now, of course, you can say, oh, well, that's the train's fault. The train came at 9:59 and it left at 9:59. I came at 10. It's supposed to come at 10. It's supposed to leave at 10, and it wasn't here. Oh, well, maybe even the clock at my residence is very slow, so it caused me to miscalculate the time. And anyway, I don't really want to go to this place, so maybe it's like I subconsciously didn't want to actually come get on the train at the right time. Well, guess what? This does not help you. You should take responsibility. It is your fault, even if the train came at 9:55 and you came at 10. And even if it came at 9:40 and you came at 9:50, it is still your fault. Now, I'm sure you're going crazy staring at your screen. Well, guess what? You know that trains can come early. You know that trains can come late. You know all these things could happen, and yet you chose to come at 10. You chose to come at 9:59 when if it was a really important date, and obviously this depends on the actual date, or on the actual sort of the thing that you're going to. If it's a very important sort of place, you should give yourself more time in order to maybe even, in case the train gets cancelled completely, get the next train, and still be within the correct time frame to get to where you want on time. It is your fault because you know that trains can come late. You know that this can happen, and you should take that into account and come early. This is actually seen in Around the World in 80 Days, when Phileas Fogg, going around the world in 80 days, in India, right, he has heard, there's a new railway that's opened up from the west to the east, and he's gone from the west to the east. Well, he's going to take that railway, but as they are coming up to the east, there's still several miles, several kilometers, not even several miles, I think tens of miles left, and the railway stops. There is no more railway to actually get to Calcutta, which is where he wants to get to. And so, does he get flustered and completely, cry? No. In fact, there's a friend that plays whist with him on the train, and he says, Mr. Fogg, this is a delay that is extremely prejudicial to your interests, is it not? No, Sir Francis. This has been taken into account. What? You knew that the line... Not at all. But I did know that some obstacle or other would crop up sooner or later on my route. In fact, nothing is in jeopardy. I have 2 days spare that I can use. There's a steamer that leaves Calcutta for Hong Kong on the 25th at midday. Today is the only 22nd, and we shall get to Calcutta on time. Now, I say that is fantastic. He has taken stuff into account, and he has still put blame on himself. Even if, and by blame, I mean responsibility. He has said that, yes, I took that into account. It's not, I guess it's lucky that we came early. Well, no. As another example, eating, for example, 3 kilograms of ice cream in the evening, just because, you felt sad that day. Maybe your dog died, or your laptop broke or something, and then you justify that to yourself, and maybe to other people, and say that, it's because of these sort of things that, I'm allowed to eat 3 kilograms of ice cream. Or maybe you won the lottery, or you found $100 on the ground, or $1,000. Well, I'm eating 100 kilograms of ice cream because of that, because, I think I deserve it. I'm saying nothing about deserving or not deserving. What I am sort of trying to tell you is that it's still your fault. No matter what, it's still your responsibility. You chose to eat the 3 kilograms of ice cream. You chose to do that. And it doesn't matter that, emotions, you were feeling really sad or you were feeling really angry. Emotions don't at all justify any sort of action, really. It was still your responsibility. They don't make you into a completely different person that's incapable of being rational. You can still make decisions, or at least try to make decisions. This obviously is hard to people, obviously, nearly every single human, because we are evolved to sort of have our emotions dictate how we act. But we still have the control in our emotions. And even if, for example, people will excuse us, he was feeling really sad that day because he ate, and so he ate 3 kilograms of ice cream. That's okay, I understand. Or maybe you were late because your dog got ran over right in front of you. You were late to work. Fine, okay, that's all right. But the thing is, that doesn't like the real world or real world objects or the laws of physics don't stop just because of excuses, right? So just because on the way to the airport you lost your phone, and so you cried about it, but then you came to the airport late, that doesn't unfly the plane. If your plane has already taken off, the laws of physics don't make it so, oh well, you had a reason, your phone broke, so we're going to reverse the plane's course. No, that doesn't happen. When it comes to human interactions, it sometimes works. The excuses work where they forgive you and they give you a second chance. But it doesn't work in all human interactions. That's number one. And number two, it doesn't work in the laws of physics. And there's a lot of things that happen in life that are to do with the laws of physics. Now, what I'm sort of saying is, what I'm saying is kind of hard for people to take on because humans are dictated by emotions. We've sort of been evolved to have our behavior changed by emotions, and so it's obviously hard to not have it. And so I'm not asking you to get hate yourself because I'm getting angry and so, or I'm getting sad and so I'm not motivated to do anything, or I'm angry and so I don't want to talk to that person even though that person might be really important to me. And so I'm not asking for you to sort of really hate yourself or get depressed or something. These are sort of the if anything, you should get angry sort of at yourself, but at the same time, understand that this sort of anger isn't the anger of complete destruction or like self-loathing, or that you can't actually get out of this hole of emotions controlling you, right? It's it's sort of like to compare it with the pain your muscles feel if you exercise, right? So if you exercise or you do some hard work, your muscles, it's not exactly painful, but it's stress, it's uncomfortable when you do a lot of hard work. And even though you have that pain or you have that uncomfortability, you know that uncomfortability is good for you because it means your muscles get stronger and you'll become healthy yourself. So it's sort of the way to compare it is with that, where these sort of emotions of getting angry at yourself help you to stop having your emotions control you in the future, and sort of remind yourself whenever that sort of thing happens. Now we can actually see an example of this example in Around the World in 80 Days with Passepartout. Passepartout. He's French, and him is at the start of the book when Phileas Fogg and his servant Passepartout get out of London. They're on the train, and just before then, they were getting ready. It was very short notice that Phileas Fogg gave to his servant to get everything ready and go, and so he was making excuses. He didn't really understand what was happening. Perhaps they wouldn't get as far as Paris, and to be honest, he would certainly be pleased to see the great capital city again. But certainly a gentleman who was so careful not to take one step too many, that's Phileas Fogg, would go no further than that. Yes, that was it, quite probably. Yes, that was quite probably. But it was also a fact that this gentleman, who up to then had been so much of a stay-at-home, was about to set off to get on the move, right? So this sort of cloud of emotions, this excuse-making, he's probably doing that, he's probably doing that, instead of being determined like Phileas Fogg, leads him into a bit of a problem, where, but the train had got no further than Sydenham when Passepartout let out a real cry of despair. "What's the matter?" asked Mr. Fogg. "What's the matter is, in the rush, in my state of confusion, I forgot..." "What?" "To switch off the gas lamp in my room. In my bedroom." "Well, my dear fellow," Phileas Fogg replied coldly, "you'll be paying the bill." So, that's what it leads to. You paying a lot of money. And, obviously, other costs to do with your life. Now, Passepartout is a very emotional person, and he does allow emotions to control him and his actions, as can be seen with around the middle of the book, where they are now in Hong Kong, and a police detective who, it doesn't matter why, well, he wants to get he wants to get Phileas Fogg. He thinks that he's a criminal, and so he's trying to, through Passepartout, his servant, get Phileas Fogg into jail, or basically allow Passepartout to give up his master. And by confusing him and getting him to a complete emotional distress, that he's stuttering, he's thinking, "Oh my God, my master is a criminal." He says, this is the detective, he says, "Oh, let's just forget everything I said," replied Fix, "and let's have a drink." "Yes, let's have a drink." Passepartout was feeling the effects of the alcohol more and more. Fix realized that he needed to separate him from his master at all costs, and wanted to finish the job off. On the table there were a few pipes stuffed with opium. Fix slipped one into Passepartout's hand, and the latter took it, put it in his mouth, lit it, took a few puffs, and fell back, his mind befuddled by the drug. And this basically causes him to actually lose Phileas Fogg and leave him to go onto Japan by himself. So letting your emotions control you, even by getting bombarded with information and not taking the information, not getting yourself angry, but actually realizing what you have to do. Doing that would have been much better. But no, in his delirium, Passepartout takes a whiff of opium because he's thinking about something else, and he falls into slumber. And this emotional state of mind is contrasted by Phileas Fogg when he realizes that he is in Hong Kong, and his steamer, so that means the ship that was going to take him to Japan, or his next destination, had already left. And this was due to Fix, the detective, meddling in their affairs and basically causing him to stay there. Now, Fix really likes this because he can now then probably arrest Mr. Fogg. But it is easy to imagine then the hammer blow he received, this is Mr. Fix, when he heard Phileas Fogg say in his calm voice, "But my steamship's not the only boat, I believe, in Hong Kong harbour." And so now he searches for another ship, which he finds a smaller ship, basically crewed by a smaller crew, that he can get to his next station on the journey around the world. Now, another example is, it's pretty similar to the previous one, where you haven't done the dishes, but you say that, oh, well, I had to do homework. That's why I could not do the dishes. I didn't have enough time. And usually this is sort of trying to make the other person that you're telling this excuse to give you the benefit of the doubt. Like, okay, maybe you didn't have time to do the dishes. And usually that's not the case. Usually you definitely did have time to do the dishes. You just don't, and this happens not only with the dishes, it happens with any task at all. I couldn't do this other task because this task was important. Or I prefer to do this task. And usually you could do both tasks. You just are lazy and you're relying on the other person giving you the benefit of the doubt and saying, well, maybe you didn't have enough time. Usually you can, but even if you actually physically did not have the ability to do both things, well, not at the same time, but one after the other, you could not fit in the time you had available into doing both things, well, the thing is that the world doesn't stand still. In that moment, possibly, yeah, it wouldn't have been your fault. But the thing is that the moment isn't just one moment in the entire world. There's a past, there's a present, there's a future. Your actions in the past influence the present. So you put yourself into that position, and it's your fault. It doesn't matter, it's still your fault that you put yourself in that position. You didn't do the homework straight away when it was assigned, and so you left it up until the last moment, and you couldn't do the dishes. And this happens with a lot of other tasks in your life. You can scan, or mentally scan sort of like the past sort of problems like that you've had, and actually see if you were the cause, which you usually are, that led up to them being sort of delayed, or them being put in a bad position, like those tasks being put or being done at the wrong time. It happens a lot of the time, and this is another example that can be seen in Around the World in 80 Days, where Phileas Fogg doesn't blame other people. He blames himself, and he takes up responsibility when they are in Calcutta. So they arrived to the eastern side of India, and they are taken into a court. And I'm not going to go into the details, but basically, due to his servant being a naughty little servant, he's forced to either sit in jail for 14 days or somehow do something else and get out. Well, he doesn't, as Passepartout does. Passepartout was dumbfounded. This sentence meant that his master was ruined because he had to sit in jail for 14 days. A £20,000 bet had been lost, all because he had casually wandered into that wretched temple. Doesn't matter what temple, but Phileas Fogg, as firmly in control of himself as if the sentence being given by the judge, concerned someone else, didn't raise an eyebrow. But just at the moment when the clerk was calling the next case, he rose to his feet and said, "I wish to put up bail." Right? And he pays a considerable amount of money in bail, £1,000, which out of the £20,000 bet that he has going on is a relatively considerable amount of money. But due to his quick thinking, he realizes that it's better to actually get the £20,000 instead of have the money that he has already put onto this, wasted on, or not wasted, but used on this expedition be put to complete waste. So the quick thinking helps you. It is quite puzzling and maybe even funny how some of these excuses that we create are sometimes so stupid and don't make any sense, but we still believe in them and we still take them as a solution to our fault, to our responsibilities, in order to not feel the blame of some sort of problem. And this often happens with the example of reading. People say, "Oh, well, I just don't have enough time to read. I wish I had more time. I really like reading, but I just don't have time to read." That is complete, utter rubbish. You definitely have time to read, and you know that you have time to read. So saying that you don't have time to read is sort of like the worst possible sort of excuse that you give yourself, and because you repeated it so many times, you sort of accept it as a valid excuse, even though if you actually look into it at all, it is complete tosh. Because you probably watch hours upon hours of YouTube a week. You probably watch, or maybe not even YouTube, or TikTok, or something like that, or YouTube Shorts, or something like that, or maybe even Instagram. You spend so many hours in this sort of leisure time that you actually, at some point, I feel like you even start thinking about it as sort of work in itself, where you have to look at YouTube, or you have to look at TikTok, or wherever you spend your hours in the digital realm, in order to get up to date on all the news, or sort of have all the newest information on things. And you start treating it as work, and so you even get annoyed at people blaming you for not reading because, well, I'm working all day, and I'm working even in my leisure time, when I'm watching YouTube or something, because I have to know what's happening in the latest news stories. You obviously don't. You've deluded yourself into thinking that, and you can clearly stop making that excuse and start reading, because reading is very good. Now, to solve this sort of excuse making, you just have to sort of annoy yourself. You have to annoy yourself. Every single time you're about to waste your time by browsing some website, or watching YouTube videos, or watching other kinds of videos. Whenever you're about to do that, at least think to yourself, to sort of annoy yourself a little bit into thinking, I could be doing this time, I could be reading, or I could be working, or I could be doing something actually productive. Just annoy yourself, sort of poke yourself, metaphorically maybe, or figuratively, but maybe even literally. And by repeating this over and over, you build up a habit of sort of associating doing this sort of action, or this wasting your time with sort of an annoyance in your brain saying, well, you could be doing that, well, you could be doing that. And I guess that's my sort of advice to help you to stop wasting your time and making excuses about wasting your time. My final example in this sort of first part is when you're working as part of a team, and you're a team member, and maybe you're not even the leader, but another team member sort of screws up. They don't do their work. They maybe were supposed to do the presentation, but they were playing video games the entire time. Well, this is probably the easiest place where you can say, oh, it is not my fault. We didn't do the project. I, for example, didn't get the extra money that we were supposed to get from the project if we completed it on time. That's not my fault. That's his fault, because he was playing video games the entire time. No, it is your fault that you did not get that money, because, first of all, if you're a leader, let's just say in the case that you're a leader, it is pretty obvious what you should have done. You should have known about this person that you're going to take on as a crew member or a team member, and you should have not taken them on, or given them a very strict talking to, or just made them do their work. Now, and at the end, you could have just fire them and replace them with another person. Now, even if you're a team member, it is still your fault. Not your fault that the entire that the project failed, but your fault that you didn't, for example, get the extra money that your team would get if they finished on time. Now, that feels like a small difference, but what it actually means is that you chose to get involved with the project. You chose basically this team. And maybe if you didn't choose the team, you chose the leader who chose the team. So you could have still predicted that the leader would make a horrible mistake in terms of picking the correct team members, and so it's still your fault for putting yourself into this project as another team member and not getting the money, because you should have known, or you should have predicted that people were unreliable. And even if you say, oh, you couldn't, these were all new people, well, okay, great. That it's still your responsibility. You still need to say, yes, I didn't know. I just didn't know. It's not that, oh, that person was at fault and it's all their fault. No, that I didn't get the money. Not that the project failed. It is the fault of that person that the project failed, I guess you could say. But that you didn't get the money because you chose to put yourself into that position. And even with this crew member that's at fault, well, you could have done his work. You could have done the crew member's work. You could have spent extra hours of your time, probably without pay, because you wouldn't be paid for their time. They would be paid for their sort of involvement with the crew. But you theoretically could have done their work. Maybe even if you say, oh, well, they're a rocket scientist. I'm not a rocket scientist. Well, you I'm assuming, are not a newborn baby. You had 20 years, 30 years, 40 years of your life behind you that you could have learnt rocket science. You could have. You chose not to do it. You didn't learn rocket science. Therefore, when you came to this crew, and when the rocket scientist was off playing video games the entire day, when he was supposed to be calculating the calculations for rockets that you're building, it is your fault. You can say, well, it is your fault that you did not learn rocket science and then step in to help this rocket scientist. Now, obviously, you can say that's preposterous. That is preposterous. What do you mean? What, I'm supposed to become a rocket scientist? I'm not saying that at all. That's exactly sort of the thing that I'm trying to get across to you, is that just because you are at fault for something, or that I guess that you're responsible for something, does not mean at all that you should have done it, or you should have done all possible things to solve this problem. This sort of thinking, this way of mind that I'm sort of trying to get across to you, should be freeing to you. It puts you in control. No longer are you sort of a listless vessel, I guess you could say, just a person wandering around, being sort of pulled there and back by the different sort of pulleys of life or something, by foreign influences. You are in control of yourself. For example, your omelette that you made in the morning, it was, for example, too watery, or maybe it was too hard. Instead of saying, oh, well, my gas burner is sort of wonky, it's not perfectly regulating temperature, oh, well, the egg consistency is off, I'm not getting the precise volume of the egg that I can just calculate, that I can then use a specific length of time to fry them on in order to achieve a perfect consistency. Instead of doing all of that, instead of making up excuses, you can say, no, I chose to not care about the consistency of my omelette, right? It is not that important to me, right? If you do sort of these things, it skips the usual steps that happen after sort of a problem. Or, for example, you made your omelette. Well, now you can either say, well, it wasn't my fault. Or you can say, well, it might have been my fault, but it was also the sort of the consistency of the eggs, and it was that sort of stuff. And maybe you even get angry, like, why does this always have to happen to me? And then at the end, you just realize that, well, yeah, it is kind of my fault that the egg was burnt or something, and so, yeah, I just suck. Well, these stages of denial, of anger, of bargaining and depression are just part of the stages of grief. And this sort of thinking, right, of accepting that it's your fault, accepting that it is your responsibility, and you choosing not to put all your time and effort into making the quality of the omelette just right, standing right next to the pan, measuring with a thermometer, not doing anything else, just focusing on this. You chose not to do that, and you skipped all the way to the end of the acceptance phase, where you accept it is your fault, and I chose not to do it, and you don't cry about it. You don't waste any more time than you need to, and that is a thing that Phileas Fogg excellently represents in the book. And the way he does this is at the end, or closer to the end of the book, when he is in New York, he's trying to get to London, so he's trying to go east, but in classic 80 days around the world fashion, the ship has already left, the ship that he was supposed to go on. And so now he has to find a replacement vessel to depart instantly to get to London. But he's having a hard time finding one. And so he comes up to an interesting ship called the Henrietta. And the captain's being a bit stingy. He says, "The owner's me," replied the captain. "It's my ship." "I'll charter it from you," says Phileas Fogg. "No." "I'll buy it from you." "No." Phileas Fogg didn't bat an eyelid. However, the situation was serious. New York wasn't the same thing as Hong Kong, and dealing with the captain of the Henrietta wasn't the same thing as dealing with the skipper of the Tankadere, which is the ship in Hong Kong. So far, the gentleman's money had always been able to overcome obstacles. This time, money didn't work. Nevertheless, it was essential to find a way of crossing the Atlantic by boat, unless they could get across in a hot air balloon, which would have been very risky, and in any case was not practical. I think that's a reference to his other book about being in a balloon. In this case, you see that Phileas Fogg doesn't go through the 5 stages of grief. He only goes through one. He comes through to the acceptance, and he doesn't cry, he doesn't despair. And at the end, he says, "Well then, will you take me to Bordeaux, which is a place in France? No, not even if you paid me $200. I'm offering you $2,000 per person. And there are 4 of you? 4. Captain Speedy began to scratch his forehead, as if he was intent on tearing all the skin off. Earning $8,000 without changing his route made it worth putting aside his aversion to having passengers on board. In any case, passengers at $2,000 are no longer passengers, but valuable cargo." Right? So this sort of quick thinking by Phileas Fogg, which you notice at other times during the book, save him failing on his bet to go 80 days, to go around the world in 80 days. And here, I will make the bold claim that everything is in fact your fault. Everything. At least, and there's obviously there's an asterisk to that. Not everything as in everything that happens in the entire world, but everything that happens to you, every single problem that happens to you is the responsibility of you, of no one else but yourself. And by no one else, I mean it is the responsibility of other people, but what matters is you, because you can't control other people. The only variable that you control is yourself. So it doesn't matter that, another person could have reminded me to leave my home. I missed the train. Well, my mum didn't remind me. The thing is, you can't control your mum. You don't. You can control only yourself, right? You can control the alarm clock, the alarm app on your phone, that you could have set an alarm to leave your house at a certain time. That's the only actual things that you can control. And making excuses that, other people are at fault is pointless. It's pointless because it doesn't lead to anything. Except if this will lead them to behave better in the future. For example, if your mum did say that she was going to promise, or she promised that she was going to remind you to leave your house, and she didn't, there's no point blaming her for it if you're never going to see your mum again. But if you are going to see your mum again and you're going to live with her, you're going to keep on living with her, maybe not until the rest of your life, but you can still put the blame on her to her face, as in, like, you tell her that it was your responsibility. This doesn't mean that you've shifted responsibility from yourself, but instead you remind her that next time, right, she has to realize that she also is at least partly responsible for you not leaving on time. And the reason why everything, right, is your fault is because, for example, things like this. You know that problems can happen in your life. You know that, for example, a robber can be on the streets. Your sibling can be annoying. The internet can fail. Your pen can run out of ink. People can be incompetent and start fires. People can drunk drive. You can lose personal items. You can become fatter from eating junk food. You can forget passwords. Trains can come at imprecise times. The government can mismanage money. Right? All these things you know. I haven't surprised you by saying any of these sort of things, right? So you shouldn't be surprised at all when a thief steals your bag in a park. Your sibling eats your favorite cookies that you told them not to eat. The internet turns off when you were giving an online very important presentation that was depended on the internet. Your pen runs out of ink during an important exam. A fire spreads to your house and destroys important, valuable things to you. A drunk driver runs into your car. You lose your house keys. You can become extremely fat from eating bunches and bunches of Smith's salt and vinegar chips. You can forget your computer passwords. You can miss your train. You can find the prices of things are higher than they were before, right? All these sort of things sort of follow on from what I said before. And so if one of them does occur, one of these problems occurs, you shouldn't say, oh, well, I thought that it was a safe neighborhood. I thought thieves wouldn't steal bags in this neighborhood. I thought my sibling would forget about eating cookies today. I thought that the internet wouldn't go out today. I thought my pen had enough ink for the test. I thought that my neighbors wouldn't accidentally set fire to my house. I thought that drunk people wouldn't drive into my car tonight. I thought that I wouldn't leave my keys on the train. I thought that I deserved eating McDonald's because I had a tough day. I thought that I would remember all my passwords. I thought that the train driver would come on time today, just by chance. I thought that I could just buy whatever I want and later at the same price. Right? This sort of stuff is obvious. It's obvious when I sort of say it in this way, but you actually have to think about this, because I'm sure that you said a lot of those sort of excuses and you relied on them in order to completely absolve yourself of the blame and not have to actually think about solving the problems, which is what we actually want to do. We want to solve the problems. And this reflection, right, you have to reflect. And this reflection can't happen while you're watching a video. This reflection can't happen when you're browsing the internet on your phone. It can't happen when you're doing anything else, right? This has to happen in spare time that you have and that you make for yourself, right? And a lot of the spare time can be sort of given to you or made or can be used when you do necessary recurring problems, which links to my video on problems, right? These problems give you time to reflect on the excuses you make and the problems that you have in your life that you can fix, right? So it's actually very important to have these this time to actually reflect on the problems. And obviously this doesn't mean that you're entirely responsible for your problems, but you still need to think about them, because you're the only one that actually you can control, and that you can be sure will impact the events in the future. And I will end off with the end of Around the World in 80 Days, where, unfortunately, Phileas Fogg comes later than 80 days back to London, therefore he fails his bet. Passepartout could not stand it any longer. "Master, Mr. Fogg," he exclaimed, "curse me, it's all my fault that—" "I'm not going to accuse anyone," replied Mr. Fogg in the calmest tone of voice imaginable. "Off you go." Passepartout left the room. So, we can see that even when he has potentially lost £20,000, and even more because he spent money on the journey, he doesn't despair, he doesn't make excuses. In fact, Passepartout is the one that makes excuses. So, it's really good, And even, he actually says, he asks for forgiveness from a person that was, from his kind of girlfriend. Phileas Fogg does. And, I mean, that's really interesting. It's admirable that he takes full responsibility. And of course, because, it is an interesting book and it's a fun book, actually going around the world by 360 degrees, they actually saw 80 days and 80 nights, while London only saw 79 days, because when you go around the world, you see an extra day going from west to east, right? And so in the end, it was all good, and Phileas Fogg actually did go around the world in 80 days, and all was well. So I leave you with that, and I hope you act like Mr. Fogg acted fictionally, and live a better life without excuses. Thank you very much for listening.